Yo, what's going on, Serpa Squad? Tanner here. It's been quite a while since we've done a proper terrarium update, and I've got some really cool progress to show you on a few of my favorites. So why don't we go ahead and do some maintenance, and I'll show you how these terrariums are doing. Let's get into it. Help support the channel by commenting, liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you know when I upload new content. First, we'll take an updated look at the closed tropical terrarium from How To Terrarium episode 2. I uploaded that video on August 23rd in 2016. That means this terrarium is currently 4 years and 1 month old. It's a far cry from the oldest one in my collection, but it is the oldest one that I've showed a demonstration for. During the time that it's been set up, I've only opened it a few times to maintain the aesthetic. For me, this one's really special, and in more ways than one, I think it serves as a testament to what this channel has always stood for. That with a little creativity and effort, anyone can create a living piece of art which will grow and flourish and bring them many years of joy. Of course, that's true for this terrarium since it's grown in significantly since whenever I set it up, and it's brought me a lot of joy, but the same can be said about my YouTube channel. At a surface level, of course, whenever I first uploaded this, I had less than 500 subscribers, and just a few days ago we surpassed 700,000, which is crazy. So with all of that, I figured now is the perfect time to do an update and some maintenance. But before we do that, we got a little tradition around here. You gotta give the terrarium a proper sniff whenever you first open it up. That's right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I live for. In all seriousness though, even though your terrarium may look healthy, the way that it smells is often a better giveaway as to how healthy it actually is, and a healthy terrarium just happens to be one of my favorite smells. In short, you want a smell that resembles the forest. So when you're out there walking around and you get that nice earthy smell, that's exactly what your terrarium's going to smell like if it's healthy. However, on the other side of the spectrum, if you start to notice a sort of stagnant, putrid type of smell coming from your terrarium, that's usually an indication that you have built up anaerobic bacteria in your system. I found that in most cases, once that occurs, it's really difficult to save the terrarium. Usually that's the result of a bad foundation. So make sure to put in a proper false bottom, as well as use an ideal substrate that's not going to get compacted and will allow for max aeration. Enough on that though, let's get to the maintenance. I've got my tools lined up and ready to go, but if you want to know more about why I'm using what I do, I'll link a video up here to my terrarium toolbox that goes into detail on everything. Before I start removing anything, I like to move things around to get a better sense of how everything's doing and to see what exactly needs to be trimmed. I can tell immediately that a lot of this ficus needs to be trimmed, so I'll just grab it with the tweezers, pull it out like so. This side is especially crazy and a great example of why I do maintenance to begin with. A lot of times the plants just grow too crazy and they shade each other out and overcompete, and they just kind of take away from the aesthetic that I want at least. I know some people like these sort of jungle looks like this, and if that's what you like, that's fine, but for the optimal results, I think that a little trim every now and again is a good thing to do. Something worth pointing out is that a lot of the leaves on the Anubias are yellowing. This could be a nutrient deficiency or that they weren't receiving the optimal amount of light. I think that in most cases it was probably the lighting situation, because if you see where it's yellow here, this is where all of the ficus was growing over top of the Anubias, whereas all of the spots on this plant, at least that are green, they weren't shaded like that. So what I'm going to do is trim off a lot of these yellowing leaves, and then I'll cut them up into pieces and put them down in the substrate to put the nutrients back into the system. After I've removed all of the leaves, I just trim them up real quick. And then I just grab a few with my tweezers and put them over top of the substrate like so. I like to chop them up ahead of time so I can easily hide them throughout the setup and they don't detract from the overall look. I removed quite a few plants from the system. Most of these I'm going to keep out, but I am going to plant a few back in for denser growth. I've got the look of the terrarium fine-tuned, but there's another reason why I like to do maintenance, and that of course is to clean the glass. I'll do this differently based on the shape of the container, but for this one I'm just going to get my sprayer and spray some water on the inside of the glass. And then I grab a microfiber cloth with my tweezers and just carefully scrub off the glass. Cleaning the glass is extremely important because it removes debris and things like that are blocking the light from getting into the plants, and it also allows for better visibility. We're just about done with this one, but because we've had it open while doing maintenance and because we removed some of the plants, a lot of moisture has been removed from the system, so we gotta add a little bit of water. I've got my sprayer again, and I'm just gonna do a few spritzes down here. After that, we're good to seal it back up. And as you can see, the terrarium's doing awesome. It's a pretty simple design, but I think it showcases the plants perfectly and is a great little piece to have on the shelf. After just a little bit of maintenance, a little TLC, I think it looks that much better as well. Let me know what you think. On to the next one, which is the $0 free terrarium. I uploaded the video for this one on April 21st, 2018, which means that it's 2 years and 5 months old. During that time, I only opened it once for maintenance, and I believe that was at the 6-month mark. I really like this terrarium because there was absolutely no expense or upfront cost to get it set up, and it's something that pretty much anybody could set up. However, just like myself, this terrarium is in dire need of a haircut. I mean, look at the back of this. It looks crazy. That moss is grown in so thick, and that's something that we gotta address. Just gotta untie the string here. Pull this off. Check that out. It's a good idea that I decided to open this up because the rubber bands are dry rotten, which means that moisture is most likely escaping out of the top. And like I said, we gotta give them a proper sniff, and this one smells healthy as well. And before I start trimming this, let's just take a moment to appreciate how much it's actually grown in since whenever I first set it up. It's absolutely wild, and there's pretty much no more room for additional growth. Anyway, it's time to get to work. It's looking a lot better, but I gotta actually clean off the glass so we can see it. At this point, it's all cleaned up and ready to go. I just gotta seal it back up. And after a quick maintenance session of feeling like an archaeologist, this terrarium is looking proper once again. I really enjoy this terrarium, and I think it's the perfect example of what you can set up without spending any money. The next one on the agenda is the forest terrarium from the Satisfying and Relaxing video. I uploaded the video for this terrarium on March 2nd of 2019, which means that it's 1 year and 6 months old. I only opened this once for maintenance, and that was a month after I first set it up. It hasn't been opened since. Although at first glance it might seem like this terrarium's not doing so well, I actually think that it is, and the story's quite different because of the way that it's set up. Let's take a look. This one also smells really healthy. And by the way, I have gloves on so that way when I'm working around in here, the oils from my skin don't transfer to the leaves of the maidenhair fern. They really don't like when that happens, so in order to keep it happy and healthy, I'm wearing some gloves. The reason that I say the story or current state of this terrarium is different than the others is due to the way that the container is sealed. You'll notice that neither the lid or the jar have a gasket on them, so whenever this is resting on the top, although it is sealed, it's not completely sealed. So over a long period of time, we'll say a year and a half, moisture is actually going to escape from the system, which means that the humidity is gradually going to decrease. The reason that I mention any of that is that when looking at the ferns, the growth that we have is quite healthy, but it's not nearly as dense as I would like. I believe that's in part due to the decrease in humidity, but I also got to remember that ferns are very slow growing, so I got to be patient with them. That in mind, I think a lot of the original foliage died off a while ago due to acclimation, and what we're seeing now is all of the new acclimated growth, and that's why there's not too much of it. The majority of the other plants have grown in quite nicely though, so I'm just going to trim things up and remove some dead foliage. I removed most of the dead foliage and trimmed the plants. I'm going to chop all this up and put it back into the system for nutrients like the other one, and I'm going to put some of the plants and mosses from the other terrarium in this one to make things look a little more full. And of course, like before, I've got to clean off the glass and add some more water. There's not a drastic difference on the before and after for this one, but I like how it's looking nonetheless. And as tempting as it is for me to plant something in the background to get a fuller look, I know that I gotta be patient with this one and let the ferns do their thing. And for the fourth and final one I'll show in this video, the Millipede Mountain terrarium. Of the four I've shown, this is the newest one. I uploaded it on February 29th of this year. So that means it's now 7 months old. And to this point I've done absolutely nothing with it, and I think it shows. This by far is one of my favorite terrariums in my collection. I really like the design and layout of it, and it's grown absolutely out of control in the short amount of time that it's been set up. From the Selaginella and moss to the bulbitis, pretty much every plant has taken quite well to this setup. There's a few yellowing leaves and things like that, but overall the setup looks extremely healthy. Unfortunately, I can't really do the smell test with this one because there's no substrate, so there's virtually no smell at all. The only thing about this one that's kind of disappointing is the millipedes. I kept seeing them up until about 2 months ago, and I haven't seen them since, so I'm guessing that there are no more remaining in here. It's quite a shame since this is called the Millipede Mountain, but I guess we could always add more down the road. Now that we've taken a look, I think it's time to trim. I removed all the unsightly foliage and trimmed off a nice portion of moss. All I have left to do is to chop up this moss, distribute it throughout the setup, and give it a good mist. I'm extremely pleased with how this terrarium is turning out, and I think it looks even better after a nice trim. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any millipedes in there right now, but maybe we could try them again at some point in the future. Either way, cannot wait to see how this one continues to evolve. And that's going to do it for this one. I don't know about you, but I think these terrariums are looking absolutely incredible. If I did choose a favorite, it would probably be between these two. I like this one for the reasons I mentioned earlier in the video, and then I just think the design is really strong and unique on this one. Let me know what your thoughts are though. What of the four is your favorite? And if I didn't cover a terrarium you wanted to see in this video, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do it in the next video. Until next time, Serpa Squad, I really hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If you did, leave me with a thumbs up, and I'll catch you next time. Take care and peace.